Welcome to From the Hat, a PONDcast, the program where every episode is a different topic and all of the topics for the shows are drawn from the hat. Anything is fair game. I am a great failure. Oh, wow. That was awesome. Reality check. Ugh, that wasn't right. Learn from the past, but not dwell in the past. There's value in losing. Let's see what the hat has in store for us this week. A quote by Winston Churchill. Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Our guest for today's show is Stephen Pond. Stephen comes to us from a great background in, I don't know, how do we want to introduce you?
Failure?
In failure? Yeah. Back in failure? No. Stephen is a Shakespearean actor and a sign language interpreter, a great father and husband, I believe, and lots of experience in life, we'll say.
Catch him on his YouTube channel.
Read and find out. Rafo. Is that correct?
Raffo, technically, is how it's pronounced. But yes.
I apologize.
It's okay.
I've been calling it the wrong thing for years.
Well, so did I.
Oh, well, how did you... Okay, tangent. How did you come to Raffo instead of Rafo?
Upon reading it, I immediately thought, oh, that's going to be Rafo. That sounds better. That rolls off the tongue. Significantly nicer than Raffo.
But read and find out. It's a soft A.
And so upon hearing Brandon Sanderson himself say Raffo to other people, as well as being corrected by multitudes of internetians, I proceeded to change.
You succumbed to the pressure.
I did.
Okay.
I did indeed.
All right. All right. So Raffo and Brandon Sanderson. Raffo. Hey, come on. He's referencing your creation, so that's always great as well. So.
Well, I stole it from him, not the other way around.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. In fact, he stole it originally from Robert Jordan.
There we go. Okay.
The acronym RAFO has existed for decades at this point.
Oh, okay. You've just taken it and run with it in the modern day. Excellent. So, back to the quote. So, we've got Winston Churchill, hero of World War II.
Indeed.
And success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. What does that mean to you, Stephen?
That's really interesting. I think in terms of like working towards success, I think ultimately that just means when we are striving to be successful at something, inherent in that process is failure. As we work to improve and to accomplish goals and to build ourselves into the people we want to be, we are naturally going to fail at things in that process. And rather than accepting those failures as the end-all be-all, success truly is in going to the next failure without letting that failure become your end.
Yeah, I agree. Now, have you ever failed at anything?
Oh, I've failed plenty of times at stuff. You betcha.
Likewise, many, many times. And I think that's an important thing is that so many times in life when we're, struggling with accomplishing and doing what we, desire or want or dream, I think we often see other people who might be at that level of success that we already, they've attained what we believe success is. And we see them in that snapshot of life. They're there, but we don't see the effort and all the failure that it took to get them to that point.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to, understand that there's value in losing.
Oh, for sure.
In failing. There is value. That failure, that adversity, those struggles, those things, they provide an opportunity for us to, know what doesn't work, like Thomas Edison said, but also it gives us those opportunities to become stronger, to stretch ourselves, to go, okay, well, let's pivot, figure a new way to do that, and keep moving.
We've already mentioned Brandon Sanderson, and if anyone who is listening to this does actually end up finding my YouTube channel, you will discover that I am an avid supporter of Brandon Sanderson and all of the literary endeavors that he creates.
I will put a link
Ooh, delightful.
below in the comments for you.
Awesome.
As well. But
continue. So, Brandon Sanderson, if you know anything about his history as a writer, he actually wrote, oh man, I can't even remember which, at least 11 books. I think it was actually 13.
Oh, wow.
13 books before he published one. And
oh, wow.
he realized in this what he almost considers like a calling to be a writer, he realized if he never published a single novel, he would still write. And that to him would have been success in that moment. Even without having any actual verifiable success in this chosen field that he wanted to do, even if he never succeeded, he would have been satisfied with the things that he had done, and that would have been success to him. We know that he's a multi-New York Times bestselling author and has readers all around the world and has written tens of many books. And I could give the exact number. I just have to count. But yeah, he's obviously a success as we would classically term it. But even if he had never sold a single novel, he would have been a success. And I think that's a very important point to make, is that success is not necessarily what society tells us it is. Success is something that we truly need to define for ourselves. And if we are satisfied with the progress that we have made and the goals that we have accomplished, we are successful, no matter what anyone else says.
Yeah, I like that. That kind of reminds me of a quote by the famous Fred Rogers, more commonly known as Mr. Rogers, where he says, "Often out of periods of losing come the greatest strivings towards a new winning streak." So like it's through that losing, it's through those writing those novels that Brandon Sanderson has. It's through, those things that bring us that not just striving towards a new winning streak, but also the knowledge and the experience that allows us to get that win or attain that goal. Yeah. Or, it is like failure is such an awesome thing. Like I am a great failure. I've come to really recognize over the years how awesome failure can be and how you can really learn through every single opportunity that you have. Everything, failure, success, everything can be an opportunity for learning. And it's through those failures that, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to go, ugh, that wasn't right. I didn't succeed with that. But like Winston Churchill, without losing that enthusiasm, right. Go, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's move on. And I think that's the difference between successful people and not successful people. I was trying to think of the opposite word, but we'll just stick with not successful. And is that ability to take failure and to see failure as a win, to see failure as an opportunity to improve, an opportunity to learn. And that's where in life, it also brings more joy. You can find joy in failure. Because you know that you're going to learn something from it. You know that it's a springboard to greater success or to another opportunity, a way to do something.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Do you have a time where you have failed miserably, but have come out of it going, oh, wow, that was awesome?
Actually, yes. All through my college experience, I was putting myself financially through college by working at the university I was attending as a sign language interpreter. And all throughout college, I was saying to myself, I didn't want to be an interpreter. That wasn't what I wanted to do as my career. That's not what I wanted to grow up being. I didn't want to be an interpreter. I wanted to interpret because I enjoyed it, but I didn't want to be an interpreter. So I got my degree in something that was not necessarily related to interpreting. And then after I graduated, I wanted to go get a big boy job because I didn't want to necessarily do what I was doing to put myself through school. So I got a job at a tech company and started off doing just like customer support there. And worked there for a little over a year, and it sucked. Just working in this big boy job that I had found, I realized that's not at all what I wanted to do. So eventually, after working there for a year, after getting my wife a job there and working with her, uh, I eventually quit because I couldn't do it anymore. My wife continued working there for another like 8 months or something, but I was a failure at that job. I could not handle the scenarios that we had to go through in that, and interacting with angry people all the time. I failed at that miserably. But through that failure, I realized what I was doing to put myself through college was awesome. And I shouldn't consider something that I was doing at a previous stage of my life as a negative or a less valuable thing. So yeah, through that failure of getting this other job and then ultimately losing it, I realized success for me should be defined differently. It shouldn't be defined by what society would say is a successful job, where I'm working in a tech company and going through the ranks. I potentially could have been made manager in a few months. Like I was doing fairly well, but failing at it personally.
Right.
Yeah. So finding that different definition of success and going back to what I was doing to put myself through school was where I was finding happiness, and that was what being successful was to me.
Interesting. That's something that I think people need to realize, is that success isn't static. It's not something that's like, it's a point that you attain success. That success is an ever-changing destination. It's something that's always growing. It's something that you shouldn't ever truly attain, because you're always striving to get better at something, to improve, and that it can change, that your focus can truly change.
Yeah.
When I was 9 years old, I was in fourth grade with Mr. Nielsen. Loved Mr. Nielsen. But and I was in fourth grade, and I wrote out my life plan, and I said, well, I'm going to do this. I actually had said, I will go to college. I will play football through college. I was a football player. Once I go through college, I'll get my degree in early childhood education, because I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. Once I got out of college, I would go on to the NFL. I had aspirations for that. I thought I was a pretty good player. I think I had the talent and the ability to do that. Okay, I'll go in the NFL. I'll play for about 10, 12 years. Linemen typically have a shorter, because they take a lot of stress. Linemen, shorter career, play for 10 or 12 years, become financially stable, and then retire and go teach kindergarten. That was my dream. That was my definition of success at 9. And I had that dream all the way through until I was 21. Until I was about 21. So what does that take us there? For 12 years, that was my dream. I mean, that's a pretty substantial time to have the same goal in life.
Yeah, especially growing up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's how I was shaping my life, was play football in college, play football professionally, retire and become a teacher. That was my identity. That's who I saw I was. Starting at around 19, maybe even a little earlier, maybe 18, I started receiving ideas, and life started taking things a little differently. I just had some feelings that maybe instead of teaching kindergarten, I was going to teach special ed. I had some exposure when I was 18 working with a special ed class. Loved it. Felt really good about that. But again, I was still kind of like kindergarten and things like that. I had the opportunity to go to one university, and I didn't go to it because of some other choice. I was like, you know what? I'll just go here. Ended up not going to the university with a national championship. For a minute, I was like, oh, that sucks. I made that choice, and I lived with it. But then, after a minute, I was like, life goes on. And so things start coming in life that kind of just change up. And by the time I was 21, I had this strong drive. I mean, it was just really strong drive to pursue special education teaching and to get involved in that world. And in order to do that, I had to put aside the football. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, well, okay, that part of my identity which was a huge part of my identity. And people still to this day, I have random strangers when they see how, like, I'm 6'5", over 300 at the moment. And people just strangers go, "Oh, where'd you play football?" People see me and identify as I look like a football player, right? But I had to put that to rest. And so I put football aside because I felt that I could serve the world in a better way going after special education. And so essentially my 9-year-old vision just failed. Mm-hmm. But the enthusiasm, like Winston Churchill says, I still had so much enthusiasm to get into working with individuals with disabilities and doing that. At the moment, it didn't feel like a failure. It just was like, well, boom, here we go, changing course and, moving on. And I've had many opportunities throughout my life where, I've had some course corrections, and I've had some times where I go, okay, that was my goal for that period of time, and now it's changed. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a new goal, and I have a new goal. I taught for 15 years, loved it. It was great. I'm still passionate about it, but I moved on and I started working with a nonprofit, a hunger relief nonprofit. Loved it. It was so great, and so much failure and opportunities to grow. Yeah. And again, life changes. Success, and my whole point here is success isn't static. It's not a point. Success is a constantly moving thing. The pathway to success, like we often think that, I'll get there. Well, one, the path isn't straight. Reality check, it's actually very, it's full of ebbs and valleys and peaks and and turns, and it's all of that brings you strength and knowledge and the ability to achieve what you want. But also, like, success is constantly changing. It's constantly moving. And we need to be able to be flexible enough to grab hold of the goal, but understand that the process that it takes to get there changes you. Mm-hmm. And so also, sometimes your end goal will actually change as well. And I think it's important to be flexible enough to do that and to recognize that within yourself.
Definitely. But that reminds me, since I knew that this was going to be fairly quote-centric, because I know how much you enjoy quotes.
I love them.
I have some other quotes here. Another one from Winston Churchill, actually, that says, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." So just that same exact point. Success is not necessarily an ending. Success is not a goal. Success is a process. Mm-hmm. I know since we both come from the same illustrious family, and
oh yeah, everybody, he's my brother.
It's a Pond thing,
Yes.
But growing up and even continuing on to now, obviously, we were all very interested in the history of words. So I was curious as to what success came from. What is the etymology of the word succeed? And going back to the Latin, it comes from two Latin roots, sub, as in close to or next to, and sedere, which means to go. So the word success historically doesn't have any connotation of winning or of succeeding at something. Success only meant to go to the next thing. So when we succeed or when we fail, if we learn from that and then move forward to the next thing, that ultimately is a success.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. That's great. Success is moving on to the next thing. I think that's an important thing for people to realize. I know in my life, there's been times I felt I have attained the measure of my being. Mm-hmm. Like I'm here, I made it, I'm making enough money, I'm, doing this. But that's when you got to fight that complacency.
Right.
And you got to realize that, no, I've got to move on. I've got to keep growing. I've got to keep doing those things that move on to the next thing.
Yeah, but by definition, success is not static.
It's constant and moving and plastic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Success implies constant development, because it's you don't succeed at something and then you're done. You succeed at something and then you go on and succeed at the next thing, and then you do the next thing. And really, success could almost be translated from the Latin as result rather than success, because it's not necessarily winning and completing something. It's simply whatever happens from the process that you were doing, that is your success. And then you
Right.
move on to your next process and your next success.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. It's like, I mean, again, I don't often pull in sports analogies. I'm not that guy that pulls it. Yes, I played football and lacrosse in college. I played sports. I play everything. I love sports, but I'm not that guy who's always pulling out sports analogies. But right now I am. It's like I coached football at a local high school here for over a decade, and we had a pretty successful program. Went undefeated multiple times, league champions, all this great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that when you're coaching or when you're playing, or sports do have applications to life.
Just as Yogi Berra.
There are yes, Yogi Berra. There's some fun quotes we can get into, but we have, like, there's times you lose. And I'm not saying maybe the complete game, but maybe, you have a drive and you failed. You fumbled, intercepted, you didn't get a touchdown, whatever. And you could look at that, oh, I failed. But the point is, they often say the greatest athletes have short memories. Meaning something wrong happens, they don't let it bog them down, and they just move on. They keep pressing, and they keep putting their all into it. And that's what makes them great, is that ability to learn from the past, but not dwell in the past, and not dwell on failure, but learn from it. And that's where in life we can do that as well. As you're striving to achieve goals, whether it's professional and personal goals, or you're trying to learn something, again, professional or personal. Maybe you're trying to be a better manager at work, or you're trying to learn a new idea or topic or something. Or personally, I just bought a guitar. I want to teach myself to learn it. I know. It's like, but it's not going to go perfect. And having that mindset that, like, okay, this didn't go right. Let's learn from it. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when I was working for the humanitarian hunger relief nonprofit, and I had an event, it was out of state, and it was kind of thrown on me. We had our development team kind of created this event on short notice, and we were going to package 60,000 meals, and it came on us in such short notice that normally we would have someone drive it out. We'd pack everything up in the truck, they'd drive it out, they'd go run the event, and they'd drive it back to the warehouse, where we would then get them all ready and ship it across the world where the meals needed to go. So, but this came on such short notice, we weren't going to be able to get anyone to drive that out there. The time, we had restrictions on how long you can drive, how far you can drive, how your day goes, all this stuff. And so we had those restrictions, and all these things come to play for the safety of our staff. And we couldn't ship it directly. And so we're sitting here, and I'm like going, oh no, what are we going to do? It's 60,000 meals. That was pretty substantial. Most events were like a 10,000 meal event, and this one was 60,000 meals. We wanted to get it done. We ended up having like 800 people be involved with it. It was a great, great event, but we wanted to make this happen. But we couldn't physically drive it out there. It just wasn't going to work. We couldn't get anything to go out. And so through that failure, through that going, okay, everything we've done up until this point won't work, which I believe that is a level of failure.
Yeah, for sure.
It caused some creative thinking. And so we had to go, okay, figure it out. And so we had figured out this whole new system where we would ship it. We had a great shipper who could pick it up for us. We couldn't ship it to the site, but we shipped it to a dock in the area. And then we had our staff fly out, rent a truck locally, pick it up from the dock, go run the event, drop off the stuff back at the dock. It got shipped back to the warehouse, and then the staff flew home from there. But it was this really kind of creative way to solve the problem that it actually became the standard. It allowed us as an area to explode the impact that we had in making meals and having events, and so this opportunity for people to volunteer, but also be able to have the meals go out to the beneficiaries and those who are receiving them. Like, we were able to increase dramatically because we had to stop doing, or we learned this way to change, to pivot from what we were doing in the first place. And it became so great, we actually switched the model at the nonprofit, that the model shifted from every office having their own warehouse to having a central warehouse. And so it changed the whole thing because we found this is pretty effective. It increases our impact.
Huh. That's awesome.
We ended up after, we'd been doing it for like a couple of years just in our warehouse. And then the organization went, we're looking at some other things. We're like, hey, why don't you try this? And they're like, what? Blew their mind. Essentially, we did a pilot. The pilot was successful. And then they went, all right, we're going to shift the whole system. So half the organization shifted to this new system where we'd ship. And it was awesome. But it was great. All because of the inability to do something. Created that drive and that passion, to go, okay, we got to make this work. How's it going to work? And it ended up changing an organization. So,
So ultimately, the necessity was the mother of invention.
Huh?
You could say.
Did you just make that up?
I
heard it some. I think I might have heard it.
I heard it somewhere. Okay. Yeah, it was probably on like a Laffy Taffy or something. I don't know.
Right. But that's the thing. I mean, that quote, necessity is the mother of invention, totally applies to failure.
Yeah. Like failure fosters creativity.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where people need to realize that. It's like you've got to have that mindset that failure does create those opportunities. Mm-hmm. And instead of being dragged down and going, oh, poor me, I failed, and then give up, we need to go, oh, okay. Well, let's see. What did I not do right? And take that personal feedback and go, what did I not do right? What can I change about myself? Mm-hmm. And be willing to put aside those old habits, old beliefs, old ways of doing things and change to create a new way to have that success, to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
No, it's a very valuable point. I appreciate that.
Yeah, to quote one Johnny Cash, though this is not a song lyric, Johnny Cash once said, you build on failure. You use it as a stepping stone. Close the door on the past. You don't try to forget the mistakes, but you don't dwell on it. You don't let it have any of your energy or any of your time or any of your space. So in order to truly take advantage of the opportunities that failure provide, we have to build on them. We have to learn from them. Going off of the concept of a stepping stone, which I think is often most immediately thought of in the biblical sense of a stumbling block or a stepping stone. Failures can definitely be considered as a stumbling block. They're challenging. They're difficult to go through. Mm-hmm. But if we take those stumbling blocks of failure and we truly make them into stepping stones, then we are able to go higher. We can build on top of that failure and step on the failure to continue to grow and develop and reach greater heights than we would without that failure.
Yeah, I like that. I like the visual of that, turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones. That allows us to learn and grow from failure. And that's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Failure brings, if you let it, failure brings learning. Failure can bring success. Failure brings growth. If anything, I think if anything, that through hearing this, through listening to this, like I hope that you understand that failure is good. Mm-hmm. Failure is beneficial. Failure is something that will bring you, if you let it, will bring you growth, will bring you opportunity, and will bring you greater success in life to be able to move on to the next thing, as we have learned through the etymology dictionary. But yeah, I don't know. Any closing thoughts there, Stephen?
Well, just one final quote that I found that I quite enjoy. This is from Robert T. Kiyosaki. He says, winners are not afraid of losing, but losers are. Failure is part of the process of success. People who avoid failure also avoid success.
Interesting.
So in order to become a winner and in order to succeed at what we want to do, and in order to achieve our wildest dreams, we need to accept failure as part of the process. If we're afraid of failure, we are afraid of success.
I like that. And which shows the importance of taking risks in life.
Yes, definitely.
We need to take risks. That just reminded me when I was teaching, there's a principle of behavioral belief, behavioral modification called learned helplessness, where an individual won't act. They won't do anything because they feel they won't succeed. And so it causes this lack of action just because they don't feel they'll succeed in it. It's called learned helplessness. Yeah. And how many of us do that in life?
Oh, all the time.
All the time. I think it's a normal thing. Like, well, I'm not going to succeed, so I won't have to do this. It's like the George McFly, where it's like, oh, if I'm not good enough, why should I even attempt it? It's like that idea. And it's like, there's so much value in taking risks and being willing to just put it out there, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
Let's go. And it's that energy and that enthusiasm that inspires yourself, it inspires others, is where it can become so much more just by failing, but you gave it everything you had. And then you keep that enthusiasm, you move on to the next thing, and you grow, you learn, you develop. That's awesome.
So if, just to circle back and sort of bookend here, if I could make one adjustment to Winston Churchill's quote that we used at the beginning, which was, success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm, I would say it would read better if it was, success is running from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Because if we are truly enthusiastic, we're not going to stumble. We are going to run excited for what we can learn from our next failure.
There we go. And there you have it. Closing thoughts by Stephen Pond. That's terrific. Stephen Pond, the creator of the Read and Find Out channel on YouTube. Give it a look. It's very entertaining. I love watching the videos because Stephen's awesome and they're fun to watch, and all the information is great.
Ah, shucks.
You're terrific. Check that out. Check out Stephen. Don't forget to comment below, like, subscribe. Check out more of From the Hat, and we will see you next time. From the Hat. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.